I still don't know a lot of the answers to the questions that tormented me in my youth, like especially questions like, if God's such a good God, why is there so much evil in the world? That's the classic problem of evil question, and I don't know if we'll have time to discuss that. I'd love to with you if we can, but I still don't have an answer for that. What changed was not having an answer for why do the innocent suffer or why do bad things happen to good people. What changed was I have a complete trust in God's goodness and holiness and righteousness now. For the first time in my life, I stopped judging and questioning God and started being submissive to his will and his ways. And that was the shift. The shift was in God revealed to me who I was and how incapable I was of even my own happiness, let alone my own salvation. And he showed me who he was, that he was the Lord of all creation. And like Job of old, I didn't get my big philosophical questions answered, like why is this stuff happening to me or to other people, but I did get my perspective adjusted, where I realized God is God and I'm not. And a lot of people think that's a horrible moral to the book of Job, but I think that's the reality. God is God and I'm not. And once I was able to realize that and realize God did not owe me an answer or did not have to give an account to me in order to earn my worship, it changed everything. Okay. I felt like a prisoner who'd been set free, a blind man who'd received his sight. For the first time in my life, I realized I was deserving of death and eternal separation from God. And you might say, how could this be the first time you realized that? You said you were brought up fundamentalist Baptist. You probably learned that in kindergarten, in Sunday school. And I did learn it there. In fact, I still remember as a little kid, the Sunday school teachers would say, okay, everyone, now we all know we're sinners and we deserve to burn forever in hell. But Jesus loved us and died for us so we could go to be in heaven with him. And we would all chant that back to the teachers. But even as a little kid, I remember thinking, come on, I'm like 5 years old. What have I done to deserve to go to hell for all eternity? Whatever that means. But for the first time in my life, I actually felt like I did deserve to be separated from God. Because I think during that time of darkness, I actually began to get a glimpse of my own depravity for the first time. And I realized I literally was capable of anything. And it changed the way I looked at other people. Like at that time, Jeffrey Dahmer was in the news. I don't know if you know of him, but he was like an American cannibal. And he would lure people and back to his apartment and drug them and eat them and keep them, and really creepy. But after this conversion of heart, I was no longer thinking, ew, how could someone do that? I was just like, oh, totally. I so could see how you could go down that path. It's just like baby steps, one little step after the other until the next thing you know, you got somebody's head in your fridge. And it's just like another day. Even though I realized I was highly depraved, I also realized with great joy that Jesus had paid my debt and taken my place. Jesus did through his self-sacrifice what I could never do through my self-effort. This truth resonated within me and became my template for evaluating all other systems of self-correction, improvement, or self-realization. God had done for man what man could not do for himself. For by grace are ye saved through faith, and that not of yourselves. It is the gift of God, lest any man should boast. I felt so free and clean for the first time in my life, and out of this gratitude and love and devotion, I was determined to live for God. God's own Son had died to save me. The least I could do was to live for him. It was so clear to me now that what separated Christianity from all the other religions or ethical systems was that we could never be saved from our alienation from God through our own efforts. Salvation came through divine provision rather than from human accomplishment. All other religions and moral systems had missed the point and would be damned for their self-sufficiency, their self-dependence, and their self-effort. I took my gift of salvation very seriously and was determined to serve and obey God with all my heart, mind, soul, and strength. And this is when the true struggle began. I started off well, full of zeal, vigor, and passion, but as time went on, I found that many of my best intentions came to naught. During my years as a seeker, I had picked up many bad habits and vices, and now that I was part of God's family and his own child, I was determined to let these things go. And I would plead with the Almighty to deliver me and free me from these things, but they had become like my constant companions. I also was a man with the passions of a man. I had sexual desires, sexual urges, and even though I was committed to keeping myself pure before God, it became like a daily struggle. And it seemed like the only way I could deal with these passions within me was to like put my head through a brick wall, sometimes to like momentarily knock myself unconscious to get a little relief. Sometimes these struggles were so great. I mean, it was excruciating. And I would call out to God, and I would develop all these like little exercises and spiritual disciplines and things to try to break myself of these habits. But time and time again, I would fall into my old patterns. I read of the great saints of the desert fathers, the hermits, the monks, and thought through their example, I too might liberate myself from my own internal desires. Like I mentioned, I studied spiritual disciplines, incorporated them into my lifestyle. I was cautious of what I ate and drank, and especially of what I took in with my eyes. And like David, I made a covenant with my eyes not to take in any impure thing. But I mean, for heaven's sake, I lived in Southern California. How do you not take in any impure things? It's like everywhere, all around us. And it's even worse today. And so this became my struggle. Jesus died for me. The least I could do was to live for him. And this is where I entered the stage of my life that I call the ladder climbing stage. And so if we could bring that ladder up.